We have no guidance. We have no direction. We don't know what to do, Your Honor. That's what a assistant United States attorney, someone who works at the DOJ or at least is filling in that role, told a federal judge in Minneapolis when the federal judge was saying, why do you keep violating court orders? Why do you keep violating the constitutional rights of migrants and other people who you bring before this court? Don't you realize that you need things like a warrant? Don't you realize that you need to give people hearings? Don't you realize that you need to meet deadlines? And this attorney for the Department of Justice, Julie Lee, says, we have no guidance. We don't know what to do. And she said, I wish, Your Honor, you just hold me in contempt so I could please get 24 hours of sleep. This whole system sucks, Your Honor. This job sucks. I'm trying with every breath to get you what you need, but I just can't do it. To which this federal judge, Judge Jerry Blackwell, it was almost like a teacher speaking to a first grade student who missed the homework. And it's like, some of this is your own making because of noncompliance with orders, and we need to talk about whether or not I'm going to hold you in contempt. I mean, this is astonishing. This is the state of the Department of Justice right now, which is just so utterly, utterly embarrassing. And as I mentioned at the outset, I said this is technically an assistant United States attorney, but it's really an immigration lawyer who was filling in for the role of an AUSA, because if you've been following the videos that we've been doing, all of these federal prosecutors have been quitting at the Department of Justice. So they literally don't have the talent. Like, they don't have staff to set aside talent. They don't have the bodies at the Department of Justice to even show up in court. So they now have to pull in attorneys who are like, immigration lawyers and who are lawyers in other departments in the Trump regime in order to show up in court. And like, you take a look at the recruiting tactics that are being used now to hire federal prosecutors, which used to be one of the most exalted and difficult jobs for a law student to get. It was like as competitive as it would be. Thousands of people would apply for just a few spots. And now you got people like a top DOJ person at the Trump administration, this guy, Chad Mizell. He's going on social media and he's saying, if you are a lawyer, are interested in being an AUSA, that's like a line prosecutor, an assistant United States attorney. They work under the main federal prosecutors in the office of the different federal districts throughout the country. But he says, if you're a lawyer, if you're interested in being an AUSA and support President Trump and an anti-crime agenda, DM me. We need good prosecutors, and the DOJ is hiring across the country. Now is your chance to join the mission and do good for your country, as George Conway writes. All you young lawyers should hold out until the DOJ starts offering huge blocks of Melania movie tickets as recruiting bonuses. By the way, you have Todd Blanche, the number 2 at the DOJ, making posts like this on a weekly basis. This is where immigration enforcement becomes real. DOJ is hiring deportation judges to combat fraud, enforce the law, and restore order to our immigration courts. If you're ready to decide cases with national impact, apply now. So they're recruiting lawyers to work in the federal prosecutor's office, and they're recruiting administrative immigration law judges, not Article 3 federal judges who have to be appointed and confirmed by the president, but immigration judges who used to be a big job and it was highly skilled people. They're doing it through social media. And if that post doesn't work from Todd Blanche, they are stealing the IP of the famous Canadian turtle cartoon Franklin. And they're saying Franklin becomes a deportation judge. This is from the official Department of Justice account. And when you hear people talking about how the Trump regime are not using judicial warrants, but they're using administrative warrants. You know how you've heard that? Well, judicial warrants come from federal judges. That's the Fourth Amendment, that you have the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. But the Trump regime's position is we don't need those from federal judges. We've got our own judges that we're hiring through Franklin stolen IP ads on Twitter. I kid you not, this is real. And they're saying they're the ones who basically write tickets to the ICE and Border Patrol agents who get to go into your house without making a showing of Fourth Amendment probable cause or to satisfy the strictures of the freedom to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. Franklin is helping write the next chapter of America. You can too. We're looking for patriotic legal professionals to serve as deportation judges. Your work will have generational consequences. Apply today. By the way, this is how they're hiring special agents as well, foreign agents. This is the Department of State. Serve overseas, protect our diplomats, investigate transnational crime, support America globally. This is really what we're doing. I think Anthony Sanders says it right. If you're a lawyer thinking of applying for a DOJ job, you need to, one, write down your red lines, such as assist with cases to seize ballot boxes or mail-in ballots, incarcerate peaceful protesters, etc. Two, don't apply. A job where you need to do step one is a bad job. And that's when Julie Lee, this former immigration lawyer working for the government, filled in order to help with habeas petitions and help with the fact that people aren't working at the DOJ as federal prosecutors anymore. She signed up for it. And I guess she didn't take the advice of Sanders right there. And she said to the judge, when the judge says, what's going on here? Why are you violating order after order? I'm going to hold you in contempt, counsel. And that's where she says, the system sucks. This job sucks. Please, judge, hold me in contempt. I need rest. It will allow me to sleep. Harry Litman, let's bring him in. Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds Substack, Talking Feds podcast. Now, Harry was the former United States Attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania. That means he was the top federal prosecutor there, and he hired a whole team of lawyers, AUSAs. He knows how competitive that process is. Harry was also a lawyer at Main Justice in Washington, D.C., the main DOJ office. Now, Harry, when you see this is how the DOJ has fallen. This is what it's become, and it's embarrassing. What are they going to do next, Harry? Are they going to take out ads in the back of like naughty magazines? You know, maybe
the Hunter magazine. But it's so pitiful. I'm trying to think of an analogy, like the best colleges, Harvard or Stanford, that take 3%. Imagine they're suddenly, going down to the local 7-Eleven. Want to come to Harvard? Want to come to Stanford? It is really, so it's pitiful, laughably pitiful. And you could chortle a little, given that it's all, goes to Bondi and Blanche and the whole gang. Mizell, by the way, who wrote that piece, he was her chief of staff. He wrote the complaint about Boasberg that was humiliated yesterday by a Republican judge. You could say that, but if you've ever worked there and know the sort of ethos of it and how people were clamoring to just somehow get in to be able to, to do the right thing. And so many lawyers, that's what their true ambition was. This is just tragic. And by the way, and just a few more things. So Minnesota is completely hollowed out. Why? Because that's the place where they were ordering people. Now, don't look into this Jonathan Ross, who shot Renee Good, but Renee Good's widow, she's a domestic terrorist. Literally at that point, the highest career professionals in the office said, man, we are out of here. You guys are nuts. And so the office is just hollowed out of anyone to do criminal stuff. And what AUSA Lee was saying, if you caught the context of it, is I can't get that. We've had the chief judge of the district court in Minneapolis, also a judge in LA, say these guys are violating more orders in a month than most agencies have done in their lifetime. And what Lee is saying to him is, I can't stop them. Why can't you go to ICE and make them just comply with court orders? And Lee is throwing up her hands. She's saying the job sucks and I need 24 hours of sleep. But the main reason is I can't make my recalcitrant clients just do the minimum of complying with court orders. So that's the overall profile that we have on our hands. But how does the Department of Justice, as you say, the biggest, most esteemed law firm in the world that everybody clamored, it's the job that people want more than any other, and now it is so in the toilet. What could possibly happen? You have places with a third are gone, a half are gone, 4/5 are gone. You cannot put these pieces back together again. That's what basically Lee is saying. That's what's happening in Minnesota. And yeah, these ads really speak volumes. They kind of pretend they're still doing the same kind of law enforcement work. They're not. And they have pushed out so many people. So many other people have just, get me out of here. I can't stand working in this place anymore. And, they can't find qualified candidates. It's a stunning indictment of the Department of Justice. And the thing it brings to my mind as a longtime alum is, how will they ever get over the damage that these bastards have come in and inflicted on the department in a single year? They've taken it from the premier place, maybe in the world, to a place where you have to, advertise on X. It's so pitiful, but also, it's really, really distressing if you spend any time at the DOJ.
Harry, we talk a lot about immigration cases, and rightfully so. People are being denied due process and being detained without any explanation. I mean, there's so many filings that are happening there with these unlawful roundups of human beings and sending them to detention centers or concentration camps across the country. But, as I was speaking with someone who was running for office in Minnesota's congressional district, I'm like, not only do you have to deal with immigration and the invasions, you have to deal with every other issue, that's happening in your district. And so, for that congressman, we were talking about affordability, and we were talking about education, we were talking about healthcare, and we were talking about, all of those things that you still plowing the roads. It's called, just basic stuff. But on a day-to-day basis, with all of these prosecutors who are quitting, these offices are not prosecuting the bad guys also. So not only do you see them with these embarrassing appearances like we're talking about here, they don't have the resources, but they're not being able to prosecute sex trafficking crimes and fraud and money laundering and,
bank robbery and drugs. And yes, who gets hurt? The people. And it is so tangible. Maybe you can imagine an alternate universe where they just bring in 20 total jerks to do all the reprisals, et cetera. But that's not it. They're giving out orders. Bondi is very bombastically saying, if you can't get behind the president's priorities, you're going to be fired. They're firing everyone. And it's really true. Minnesota is the prime example now. We've mentioned that half that office is gone, but that well understates it, because it's got a civil side. So the criminal side has been completely ravaged. And that means everything the department does. And we're talking about, percentage-wise of cases, it's small, but in terms of magnitude, it's quite big. The big public corruption stuff, the big drug kingpins, the big sex crimes, all the things you're mentioning, they are not happening. And you can thank, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche when you go and interview with them. Although I think that advice that people have received is a good stuff. You're going to have to basically violate. Well, you're going to have to do their bidding. And if that doesn't happen to fit, it doesn't matter. They've said their way or the highway so much that everyone's on the highway now. And they literally don't have the people just to keep the basic business of federal law enforcement running. Who would have ever thought it would reach such a low point so quickly? Again, Ben, 1 year, and you have pockets of places. The criminal section of the Civil Rights Division just lost its top 4 people. They resigned. Minnesota's in complete disarray. The public integrity section, along with the criminal section, the other crown jewel, 2 lawyers now. And the people who are there report nobody communicates with them from the brass. They treat them, the brass does, with contempt. There's nothing for even those 2 people it is just a complete travesty. They've hollowed out the biggest, best law firm in the world, and it's the public who is most tangibly harmed.
Wow. So people wondering too, like, how are they so malicious and incompetent with the release of the Epstein files? It's this crew. It's this crew who was involved in it. It's a combination of malice, evil, and utter incompetence combined.
Can you give me 30 seconds on it?
Of course.
Chad Mazel, the guy who wrote that, he's the one who drafted the complaint about Boasberg. It was decided yesterday by Sutton, who went through and said, well, they said in the thing, see attached Renee. Oh, guess what? There was no attached Renee. They gave him another chance. Oops, no attached Renee. Instead, they substituted a line from a Fox newscast. This is the highest levels of the Department of Justice, and a gang who not only can't shoot straight, can't even, put their guns in their holsters. It's so pitiful.
Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Harry Litman's Substack. That's called Talking Feds, but more importantly, his YouTube and his podcast. You could subscribe to our YouTube as well, but subscribe to Harry's YouTube, podcast, and Substack. It's called Talking Feds. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.